Punchity punch punch.
Hello and welcome to my tutorial. This is the first tutorial I've done, and I am your host Crunchlins, or Dan if you'd like to call me that, because that's actually a word and is much easier to say. A lot of people have been asking me to do tutorials for probably about a year and a half now, and I've not gotten around to it before now, so I thought I'd start just with the basics, really. The software I'm using is Adobe Flash Professional CS6, and I'm just going to go over the tools, the workspace, and the shortcuts that I use, really. So apologies if you've already started using Flash and that this isn't going to be helpful to you, but if you've never used it before, this should hopefully familiarise you with everything in the program that you'll probably need. So yeah, let's get started with the workspace. Now, the workspace is this entire area that you see before you, and it can be customized in various ways. I'm pretty much just using the default here. So if you go to Window at the top here, then go down to Workspace, this pops out the side. Now you can see that I'm using the Essentials workspace, which means that you've got your timeline down at the bottom, you've got your properties and library bar at the side with the palettes and the tools. But you can change it to, for example, the Animator workspace looks more like this, which looks a lot more technical than it is, really. So I stick to the Essentials. But you can choose a number of different presets and just see what works for you, really. And if you ever want to reset to the Essentials, you can just click that there, which says Reset Essentials. Excellent! And you could design your own as well, new workspaces and such. So that's the workspace. All of them are customizable anyway. Like I've pulled the this sidebar out a little bit with the tools, because if it goes down like that, sometimes things can slip off the end, like so, depending on which. Yeah, see, if you use the brush tool, randomly things kind of shoot off the end unless you do that. See, that wasn't there before, so I've stretched it out. So that's the very minute piece of customization I have done with this program. So that's workspaces, and the workspace that I use. Let's move on to tools. Yay! Now, the main tool that you'll probably use is the brush tool, which is that paintbrush symbol there. Now, the brush tool can be used pretty much for drawing whatever you want to draw. So you'll probably draw all of your characters using the brush tool, and you'll probably draw a lot of backgrounds, and pretty much everything is drawn with this tool. So that's the brush tool. You can change the thickness and stuff of the brush, so you can have a really thin one, you can have a really thick one. It doesn't matter. You can do a lot of things with that tool. Similarly though, you've got the pencil tool, which is right next to the brush tool. Now the pencil tool looks kind of similar, but it's a bit more rigid, and it's used more for construction. It acts in a very similar way, but you can also manipulate it using the selection tool up here, which is that black arrow thing that glows purple. So you can use that to sort of stretch out bits and whatever you want to do with it, or pull points to different regions. You can also drag boxes around things with the selection tool, so that's now all highlighted. And if you wanted to experiment with the free transform tool, which is this little kind of binding box with an arrow through it kind of icon, if you click that, anything that you have already selected, or if you do want to select certain regions, you can move them, and you can also manipulate them as well. So let's say that we wanted to resize this weird squiggle, you can do that, and you can resize it, you can rotate it, you can skew it, you can kind of stretch things. If you hold shift, you can resize without distorting things. So that's quite a useful tool. Now obviously we have just made a massive mess over our stage, and we don't really want that. So we're going to go down here and use the eraser tool. Now the eraser tool is just kind of, well, it's a picture of an eraser, so it's a pretty handy looking icon. Now you use that the same you can just rub out everything that, well, everything or anything really, because you don't have to use the eraser to delete everything, but you can use that to reshape and make things tidier. We've got the line tool here. Now the line tool is basically the same as the pencil tool, except it only works in straight lines. You can still manipulate it the same way with the selection tool, but you can basically just make a load of lines. I wouldn't advise using the pencil tool or the line tool for creating art as such, unless it's maybe, I don't know, like the wheel from a car or something. You could maybe use a line from the shape tools over here, which the outsides of the shape tool, the middle of the shape tool is made from the same stuff as the brush ink, but the outside of the shape tool, the outline, is made from the same ink as the pencil tool and the line tool, which means that it can be manipulated and such. So let's get rid of that inside. Using the pencil tool for artwork isn't a very effective way, in my opinion. I prefer just using the brush tool and drawing massive faces with it, and it tends to work out a little bit more fluidly for me. Excellent news. Now we've also got the lasso tool up here. And the lasso tool, you can draw a kind of, well, a variety of shapes around a selection in order to highlight it, and then you can do with that whatever you want. So you can move stuff that you've highlighted, you can change the colour of it using the fill colour down here, which that changes the whole colour of your brush strokes, and the fill tool as well, or paint bucket tool as it's actually called. So you can do that, or you could just delete. You can just click delete and get rid of things that you've selected in the lasso tool. So that brings me then to the paint bucket tool. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to draw a rough kind of character's face. There we go. So now, perfect time for me to show you the paint bucket tool. So, paint bucket tool over here, or you can press K to switch to it. And down here, this controls the colour for it. Above it, controls the colour for the pencils and lines and the edges of shapes. Whereas this one controls the brushes and the fill colours. So let's give him a kind of pinkish kind of skin tone, and then you just click on the areas that you want to colour in. So let's now give him some kind of, I think he should have bright orange hair, and then obviously we want to give him some kind of glowing white eyeballs. There we go. Okay, so that's pretty basic. There can be the issue sometimes where you'll have, let's say you've drawn a circle, but you haven't quite closed the gap. So obviously if you go to colour in, you can't, because it's not a finished object. So down here you've got this little circle here. If you highlight it, it says gap size. So if you click it, it comes out with this pop-out menu. Now you've got don't close gaps, which is what we're currently set to. You've also got the options for close small gaps, close medium gaps, and close large gaps. Now this one I would say is probably a medium gap. So let's click that, and yeah, there we go. You managed to fill it in without actually having to edit the shape itself. So let's start off going back to the pencil tool, because at the moment our character is alright, but he's not really got any kind of depth to him. So let's go to the pencil tool. Now let's go to the stroke colour, click that box. Now I want to choose a bright green colour. So what I would suggest doing then is, let's pretend that there's a light source over here and it's beaming light towards our character over here. So what I'd suggest is the light will be hitting him on this side of his face. So you can use this pencil tool to just kind of grab and draw little highlighted areas where you think the light might hit. So it's going to be this kind of side of his face here. So I'd maybe draw up to the eye and then draw around the lip a little bit, and then follow it underneath his chin, then maybe a little bit on the tip of his nose. The corner of his ear might be involved in that as well, and maybe even a little tiny strip on that ear as well. Then your eyeballs are also going to be slightly affected by the lighting. So now what we want to do is use this eyedropper tool over here, which looks like a little pipette, and we're going to use that to steal the colours that we've already put down, and then we can edit those colours to make new colours. So we've stolen the orange hair. Now if you go up here, you've got your colour palette. So if you click that, then you've got more of a widespread palette, and you can kind of drag the circle to whichever colour you want. So I want a lighter version of his hair colour to imply that the light is kind of adding a bit of shine to it. And do exactly the same for his skin colour as well. Now with the eyes are going to be slightly different, and I'm going to make the main colour of the eyes a kind of light grey kind of colour. So now you're probably thinking, well, I've got a load of green lines over my face and it looks weird. Yes it does. What I find is a really handy little trick. Click the pencil tool again. Now this is going to sound a little bit mad to begin with, but scribble all over where you drew lines before, so that they're all connected. I mean, if we want to get rid of where the light source is, we'll do that as well, just to tidy everything up. Then just double click any one line, and they're all connected now, so you can click delete in one big swoop. So that's added a little bit more depth already. Awesome! Yeah, so that's our character. Now let's go back to our brush tool and let's just change it back to a black colour again. Now you see this here, we've got this kind of weird smudge shape that's already highlighted. Now that is for the pressure of your pen. Now some of you might be using a mouse and some of you might be using a graphics tablet. I would certainly recommend graphics tablets, particularly by Wacom. I'm using a Wacom Cintiq 13 HD at the moment. So pen pressure relates to tablets in the sense that, but the sensitivity of how much pressure you apply has an effect on the pen as it would a pencil or a pen in real life on paper. So if you press lightly, you've got these kind of very thin wispy lines. If you press hard, you've got thicker lines. And if you can do that in one big fluid movement if you wanted to. So that's pretty much it for the tools that I wanted to discuss today. I'm going to be doing another tutorial in a couple of weeks, and that'll outline the keyboard shortcuts that can make your process even easier. So if there's anything specific you want to see, leave a comment and I'll do my best. Make sure you follow me on Facebook and Twitter, because I do regular updates for progress of cartoons, which I'm making every other Friday. So yeah, thank you very much for your support. Appreciate it as always. Thank you. Take care now. Bye bye. Bye bye, sir. Bye bye. Goodbye. Bye.